We're on the road. Where transportation goes, community grows. Welcome to On the Road with the MTA. And welcome to another edition of On the Road with the MTA. I'm Jay Gibbons alongside with Stephanie Kay from the MTA. How's Stephanie today?
I am well, and thank you for asking. And I love it when people come into our studio so we can talk to them face to face.
That's always the best.
And I know you and I love our jobs here at MTA, don't we?
Yeah, because we get a chance to see each other in the studio here. So.
I know, and we do such good for the community, too.
Right.
And getting able to get them rides and transportation when they need it. And I'm so glad to say we have another colleague in the studio today. I've not met her before today. Have you, Jay?
Nope, I have not.
Well, okay. Let me
time.
introduce you to Taylor. Look at that. I already messed up your name. I'm so sorry. But Natasha Taylor. My daughter's name is Taylor, so I went there first. But Natasha, tell us what you do here. What is your role here at MTA?
Hi, I am a navigator for the Rides to Wellness, and I am in the Fenton office.
Oh, you are? So you had to travel about 20 minutes to get to us, didn't you? Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
How long have you been at MTA?
I have only been here since July.
Oh,
so just a short time. Yep.
Good. Well, welcome.
Yep.
We're so glad to have you.
She is a newbie. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I love your story because Jay and I do this podcast every week. And on Thanksgiving time, I always say, does anybody out there want to say what they're thankful for? What they want to, just we all have so much to be thankful for.
Yep.
And your story moved me so much. You wrote me a letter, an email, and it brought tears to my eyes. And do you mind sharing that story with us? Because coming from you, I think it's going to mean more. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay? Well, please tell us what happened. Take us back to that moment.
Last year in November, I was actually in Minnesota with my boyfriend and our kids, and we were taking them for the holiday to Mall of America and all those fun things.
Yeah.
And
first of all, how many boys you have?
So I have two boys. I have a 23-year-old Gunner and then a 14-year-old named Easton.
Wow.
Love the names. You do not look old enough to have boys that. I thought you was like 8 and 11 or something.
No, I have a grown one.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Do they think you're his girlfriend sometimes?
Yeah, actually, he gets really embarrassed sometimes because he's like, oh, seriously, Mom?
Well, enjoy it because I thought that I was my daughter's sister for about until about 5 years ago. Then that stopped. So yeah. Enjoy it while you can.
Exactly.
So you're on vacation.
Yeah, so we went on vacation and we went to the water park. And I am scared to death of the water. So the water park was not my favorite thing anyways, but I was having a great time, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I went to come down one of these slides and they couldn't find me. So they're like, oh, she chickened out. And I'm like, so they're looking for me. They're like, where's she at? So then the lifeguard comes up to the top, like I was maybe sitting down at the top or something, and nothing. They still couldn't find me. And then somebody spotted me in the bottom of the pool. I was face down in the bottom of the pool. Well, I had a seizure at the top of the slide somehow, or coming down the slide at some point. And I had ended up drowning because I was unconscious.
Oh my gosh. They never saw you come out and go down this slide.
Nope. And come to find out the lifeguard,
Yeah.
so that was supposed to be at the bottom, was actually talking to somebody else across the way and didn't realize that I wasn't there. And then when they were like, oh, where did she go? She chickened out. Then he headed to the top. Well, then I was still drowning in the bottom
You're
of the pool.
lucky that they got you out when they did.
Yeah. So then they got me out and what have you. And
did you remember any of this?
I did not. I had been in the hospital the third day, and I finally was kind of coherent at that point, but I had been coherent the entire time. I just didn't remember any of it. Wow. And I saw this balloon animal across the room, and I'm like, my boyfriend usually does stuff like that because he'll make a face and it looks like a chicken. And I'm like, that's really strange. So then I was trying to ask the nurse, was my family here? And I didn't have a voice.
Oh, no.
So I had lost pretty much everything. It had mimicked a stroke. And I didn't know how to talk.
Natasha.
I could just kind of mumble. I didn't have the use of my hands, my arms, my legs. So I was laying in the bed, and all I could do was just cry because I had no idea what I was doing. I was so confused, and I was alone. I was in Minnesota.
Yeah.
We're from here in Michigan. So then I started to get a little bit of a voice, and the nurse wrote down, your family's here. And then my boyfriend would call every night. My kids would call.
Did they stay in Minnesota with you? Or did they
they had to come back home.
Oh, wow.
So I was literally there by myself.
Oh, my gosh, how
So
scary.
she would write notes on the board, and then she would read them to me. But fast forward a little bit, that was in November. I didn't make it back home to Flint until almost the end of January.
Oh my heavens! You were in the hospital that long?
I was.
Wow.
I hope you had insurance.
So I did, fortunately
Thank
enough.
goodness.
But when I left the hospital, I had went to a rehab. However, I wasn't stable enough to travel, so I had to go to a rehab there in Minnesota. So I went to the rehab for a while. Then finding a rehab here that would take me was kind of a nightmare. So after a few months, like I said, January, I made it home. I think it was January 31st when I finally made it back to Michigan.
Weren't you so grateful to be back home?
Oh my gosh, it was, but I couldn't stay at home because I couldn't stay by myself.
Oh.
So my son, my oldest son was in the process. He ended up moving back home. But then I still wasn't physically able to care for myself or my youngest son. And I still needed a lot of help. Yeah. So my kids put me in a rehab here in Michigan. So I got out of that rehab in March, and I was doing outpatient. So I would go to speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy 4 days a week. And
oh my God, this is like a movie. This is
It
like,
was.
and it happened to you really. So how
Yeah.
long did it take you before you could actually walk and talk? And
so I started,
needed.
I started walking with a walker, and I could do some steps like end of February. When I come back to Michigan, I was able to do like 5 steps. Then I would have to sit down for quite a while. I still had like the comprehension of probably a second grader. And I was really frustrated because I just wanted to be an adult. And that's what I would just tell the therapist. I just want to be an adult again. I want to have my life back. And they're like, well, what was your life?
Oh.
I didn't know.
Oh, really?
I don't know
couldn't
because
remember.
I didn't have the memory of that.
You seem so put together right now. I mean, a navigator takes a lot of patience
Yes,
and
it sure
intelligence and figuring out things quickly. And so to go from that to this, how did you do that so quickly?
I worked very hard. I was
bet.
very motivated. Don't push yourself. Don't tell me not to do that because now I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And I wanted my life back. And I've always been one, I'm always in your face with the camera, always taking pictures.
Yeah.
Jeez, Mom, please, would you put the camera away? And now they don't even balk because looking back at all those pictures, reading like through their baby books, I started to get some memories. Like my memory would get jogged by like a picture or, something that was written in one of their baby books or in just like a memories on Facebook or something like that. People don't realize that stuff is really important. Like when you have memory issues. Yeah. And so I did that and I would work very hard and I did flashcards and exercises. I did all these things. And finally I was pretty much back to where I would remember most things. Now I had short-term memory, so it was like we would have a conversation or I would go to the kitchen for something and then I'd be like, oh, darn, what was I here for?
I do that right now. So
Exactly.
So it's a good thing, though, that can work to your benefit when your boyfriend tells you to do something you don't want to. Oh, honey, I forgot you told me to do that.
Exactly. So
are you still together, you and the boyfriend that were there?
We
together?
are. We are,
good, nice.
actually. So fast forward a little bit. I was bored. I had never been a stay-at-home mom. I had always worked, sometimes 2 jobs.
What did you do? What was your profession?
I did low-income housing for the city of Saginaw.
Okay.
So
That's a big job.
very, very stressful, something I would never be able to go back to just because I don't have those abilities to climb the stairs and to be one-on-one in very unsafe situations.
Sure.
So I was not comfortable. And maybe one day, but I won't need that because I'm here now.
Right. So tell us how you got here because I love that story.
So during my time at home, I would get very frustrated because everybody worked. I didn't see people. I didn't talk to people because I stuttered a lot and things like that. So I didn't talk on the phone a lot. So I would get frustrated because I loved going to therapy because there was people there.
Yeah.
And when my rides wouldn't show up, I would get frustrated and I would be angry, or I would get a ride and they would show up early or they would show up late and then they're honking the horn and they're just rude, not smiling, not friendly.
And this was a different company. This was not MTA.
Yep. So I would complain. And I complained regularly to where they were like, okay, what company do you want to use? And I'm like, I don't know. Just give me one that's going to be good.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, let's try Rides to Wellness. Okay, I'll try anything at this point.
Yeah.
So I did. And it was just like a breath of fresh air when Mr. Loper
Harvey Loper
got there and, he held the door for me, offered to grab my bag, and I'm Miss Independent. I'm going to do all these things because I have something to prove. And he let me, but he always offered. And just the smile on his face and
he's a delight.
Just very... He talked and didn't rush me where other companies, literally they were like, get out, you know?
Wow.
And so then I loved it. I'm like, okay, when they were coming, I knew I looked forward to it. Like, these are my new friends. These are the only people I have in my life right now that I see. I'm the grounded teenager that has to be taken by their parents everywhere. And so then there were a few other people from MTA Rides to Wellness that would come, and same thing. Everybody came. And I'll never forget having a conversation with Harvey and come to find out I had worked for Northridge Academy for a while in the office.
Oh, yeah.
His daughter worked there.
Oh, okay.
And so we were talking and I'm like, I know your daughter. I'm like, I can't picture it. I can't place it. I'm like, but I know her. So I had gone home and I scoured through pictures.
Oh, fun.
And I found it. And so the next week I was so excited for him to come. And I'm like, is this your daughter? And he's like, yeah, that's my daughter.
Aww.
So, but everybody just talks so positively about MTA and Rides to Wellness and, the benefits and making their own schedules. And I'm thinking, wow, these are retired individuals and they came to work there and they talk so highly about it. I'm like, dang, that's a great place to work. And I was in the market for a job now because we're fast forward, we're like June-ish. And I'm doing great at therapy, still can't drive. And
will you be able to drive one day or is it just?
I actually am driving now.
Oh,
I just started driving in October.
Good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah. Hey. So Mr. Loper just kind of planted that seed. Good and then Jody, same thing, just kind of planted the seed of what a great place it is. And I happened to see a job opening.
Oh, perfect.
And I was like, oh, I'm on this. So I did. I applied and I got an interview and I came and I actually interviewed for a completely different position.
Oh, really?
And I left. I made it to the parking lot and all of a sudden I hear Cameron yelling from the building, hey, come back, come back. So I come back in and they're like, what about this position? It's not posted. It's, and I'm like, yeah, that would be great. Let's talk about it. And I read the job description and I'm like, that'd be wonderful. And I got hired.
Oh, I'm so glad they knew that good hire. That's wonderful.
So now I'm working as the mobility navigator in the Fenton office, and I just I can see why, Harvey and Jody and everybody was so positive and always smiling and stuff like that. And I'm sure they have a bad day. We all have a bad day.
Yeah, the construction and trying to get places, but still, all in all, it's a great job.
Seeing now, especially what they go through on a daily basis, and they were so happy. And even if they were having a bad day, they never let it on, and they did their job great. And I am just so thankful for them because they really kept me from going into a deep depression because they were, like I said, they were like my friends.
Aww.
And so when I came to my first meeting, the town hall meeting, Jody approached me and she gave me a giant hug and she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, I remember you. And I was like, oh, I'm so happy because I remember you too. So
is she still a driver? It's Jody Nevis, right?
Yep. And she is. She's still a driver.
And I've invited her on to be on too.
Yes.
I don't know when she can come in, but that we're going to have her on too.
So that's great. So
you were the perfect person for that job because as a navigator, now what it's like to be a client, to be a driver.
Yes.
And so you know how to handle that and make it work well for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I tell people, when I'm talking to them, because I probably spend a little more time than they want on the phone because I can relate and I tell them because some of these people we are probably some of the only people that they talk to versus seeing as well. And I tell them, it's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll do our best. I promise I'll call you back or, whatever. And that's what they're thus like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm like, no, I said, I've been where you've been. Trust me. And I actually just had a conversation yesterday with a gentleman and he was so frustrated and he was so upset. It was late in the day and he needed to get to the pharmacy. He He forgot about it, was out of his insulin. My grandmother was a diabetic. I took care of her for many years. And so I know how important that insulin is. And I said, give me a few minutes, get ready. I will make sure that we get somebody there. You will make it to the pharmacy. I promise. And at that point, I was just like, I swear, if this guy doesn't get to the pharmacy, if we can't take him, I'm going to get his insulin.
Yes, I have felt that way before too. I was going to go help people.
Yes, exactly. And so that's where I struggle, is because I want to help everybody.
Right.
I am one of those people. I'm on a board for a veteran food pantry in Frankenmuth. And so I'm used to helping people. And
it's rewarding, isn't it? That's why I love my job.
It is. And I never want a job where I'm miserable, but I want to make sure I'm helping people. Yes. And that is my passion. And I would do it for free, and I do it so much volunteering, and I do it. Everybody's like, why? Why do you're always busy. You're always doing something. Because you know what? One day I'm going to need help.
Right.
And I was in that spot where I needed help and I had to depend on other people. So I always try to make sure I give back, or I do for others, because I want people to do that for me.
Well, you are a huge asset. We're so glad to have you on board. I'm so glad that you recouped so quickly. I just can't believe you went from that condition to be a navigator, because you look amazing. Yep. So did they ever figure out what caused that seizure?
So they said it was from sleep deprivation and stress.
Uh-oh.
So a lot of that come from my job, my former job. I had went to a vacant home, and there was 5 squatters in the home, and I was unaware of it. And I had gotten attacked by these 5 men, and there was gunfire. It was pretty intense. And then 3 days prior to that, I had went and did a housekeeping inspection for a young mother, and I found her newborn deceased in the bed.
Oh, and honey, that's gonna be so hard.
Yeah, so I wasn't sleeping well, needless to say.
No kidding.
And I was stressed to the max.
Yeah.
And the holidays were coming up, all these things.
Yeah.
So
stress can do so much to your body more than we realize.
It can. And that is one thing I have to stress to everybody is, you know what, sleeping and taking care of yourself. And if you have yourself in a position to where you're not sleeping because of stress or something, some type of mental health, you have to seek help, because had I asked, maybe to go to see a therapist or something, granted, I was still within like the first 5 days of everything happening. I was still had the shakes, maybe it would have never happened to me.
Right. Oh, sure.
But they actually had to put me in the hospital because I was having seizures, like 3-4 seizures a day.
Wow.
And then they put me back in the hospital in May, and they did all these tests, and like they made me stay awake. They had bright light shining in my eyes, like all this different things.
Put stress on you right there.
Yeah. And finally, after 4 days of no sleep, nothing, I ended up having another seizure.
Oh, so
and they were like, okay. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm very fortunate because it's not epilepsy. Yeah. So now I know I have to sleep well and take better care of myself.
And no more stress for you.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Minimal stress. Right, everyday common, stuff. But when things start to get a little ugly, I've learned to journal and color and stuff like that. Good. And
just take some time for yourself.
Exactly. And I never did that before.
Mental health day. Well, I'm so grateful that I'm sorry I had to go through that, but I'm so grateful that you're here now.
Yeah. Yep.
Because we sure need you. That's wonderful.
And I would have never come here, and I would still have a really stressful job and things of that nature. And I wouldn't have met all the great ladies and men that I work with.
And us.
Yes, and you too. But I can say like working here has been a very huge blessing for me, because I have a great group of ladies that I work with on the Navigator team, and my boss Shantilla, and then her boss Tracy. Like, it's just been really wonderful. And people always say, every job you go to, people say, oh, we're a really close family. That typically isn't the truth.
Yes.
Right.
But I will say here,
when
Shantilla and Tracy talked about that during the interview, those words stuck with me. And I'm like, okay, and it really is that way.
Yes.
Like, everybody is close, and everybody takes care of each other, and everybody worries about one another, and we have each other's backs.
Do you know Ashley Seymour? Is she working over there as well?
She works here in the Flynn office.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Well, anyway, I'm just so grateful that you're here. So I can't wait till I do more with you now that I know who you are.
Yes, absolutely.
Meeting you face to face.
Yep.
Yes, it's kind of cool. And now, Jay, you love working here too, don't you?
Absolutely. But I'm always behind a computer screen because I'm up in IT.
Yeah.
So if you got a computer problem, you always call us. So.
See, I can't sit behind a desk 8 to 5. That's not my thing. I'm out in the roads. Because I did a morning radio show for 21 years. So I'm out there with the people and the public. I do the podcast like Jay and I are doing, so you get to meet people. And part of the Rotaries and the chambers. Mr. Benning will see what your niche is, and he'll put you in that position. He doesn't make you sit behind a desk if you're not that kind of person. He doesn't. Right. He knows how to make the most out of a person's personality, and I can see why they hired you because you're perfect for that.
Yeah,
you can help people.
It's wonderful, and like I said, I'm so appreciative. And like Mr. Loper and Jody will always be like my people. Yeah, like those are my people.
That was in your letter too. That's why I thought I got to invite them on. And they both came on for sure. That made their day too. Thank you for taking time to write that. That was wonderful.
No problem. I was very happy to do that.
Yeah. Well, you're back to better than ever right now, I think. It's amazing. I think you're a wonderful person.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell your boys hi again.
I will. Yeah. So hi, Gunnar, and hi, Easton.
Love the names. What do they do? What's their hobbies?
Gunnar actually works for General Motors.
Okay.
He works at the Davison Road plant, and Easton is a freshman in high school.
Which high school?
Wow. He goes to Clio.
Okay. And what's your boyfriend do?
He works for Letty Electric out of Saginaw.
Well, you can say hi to him in his name if you want.
Hi, Robert.
She changed her demeanor. Hi, Robert. Oh, that's sweet. Well, okay, we do this every week. So we're going to, when I finish, we're going to send it to you and all of the people here at MTA. They're going to hear it, so they'll get to meet you better. Get to know you better.
Everywhere you can find your podcasts. You can listen to it on everything.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And we'll put on the MTA website. It's right there as well, mtaflint.org. So if you'd like to be on next week, how can they do that, Jay?
All they got to do is just drop us an email at podcast@mtaflint.org.
All right. Well, thank you, Natasha Taylor. So happy to have you on.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening. Listen every week. We bring you some wonderful things about the community. Stay safe.
You've been listening to On the Road with the MTA. For more information on our services and community outreach, visit us online anytime at www.mtaflint.org. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The MTA, your community, your connection, your way.